Google for Education defines computational thinking as a problem-solving process that includes a number of characteristics. Barefoot computing suggests that it allows us to develop the skills and techniques which help us to solve problems effectively, with or without the use of a computer. It is important to remember that computational thinking is not thinking like a computer, as computers do not have the capacity to think, but is in fact just learning to think in ways which allow us to solve problems more effectively. Although it seems that no one can quite agree what the aspects of computational thinking are, is a general consensus that it is a thought process. Berry describes the process of getting computers to help us solve problems by breaking it down into two steps. Firstly, thinking about the steps needed to solve the problem, and secondly, using technical skills to get computers' hardware and software working on it. The first step describes the process considered to be computational thinking. That being said, Berry disagrees with the idea that computational thinking is a process, instead describing the processes contained within. He also distinguishes it to be more than just another word for problem-solving skills, and although he recognises it can be beneficial in this area, argues that computational thinking has much wider applications across a variety of disciplines. Google for Education offers an online course which aims to increase awareness of computational thinking among educators worldwide, and gives ideas of how to integrate this into the curriculum and classroom. Within this, they describe the elements of computational thinking as decomposition, breaking down data, processes, or problems into smaller manageable parts; pattern recognition, observing patterns, trends, and regularities in data; abstraction, identifying the general principles that generate these patterns; and algorithm design, developing step-by-step instructions for solving problems. Although I prefer the simpler, more compact idea of computational thinking for the classroom, compared to other more complicated explanations, the only thing that's missing from these elements is debugging, which involves looking over what has previously been done to solve the problems and finding and fixing any issues within each step. Whilst Berry's explanation of computational thinking contains debugging, for me it is far too broad. He breaks his explanation down into two key areas: processes and applications. Processes include logical reasoning, algorithms, decomposition, abstraction, and patterns and generalization, most of which are included in Google's key elements, apart from logical reasoning, which can be argued to be similar to common sense. Berry's explanation of the approaches includes tinkering, creating, debugging, persevering, and collaborating, which can also be argued to not be independent aspects but extensions of the main processes. The National Curriculum for Computing expresses that high-quality computing education equips pupils to use computational thinking and creativity to understand and change the world. The National Curriculum focuses on programming coding not only because it's interesting and important, but also useful for children's later life. In relation to this, computational thinking is hugely important, although coding can be the best way to start thinking computationally through programs such as Scratch or activities such as SandwichBot. Within my experience in school, children have not had as much access time to computers as would be necessary to learn to code, as this would normally be limited to 30 minutes a week. There seems to be a very recurring theme within primary schools in which children have limited access to computers during their school hours. That being said, it is vital to be aware that although computational thinking describes the types of thinking used by computer scientists and software developers, it can also be adopted by many others and not only when using computers. Looking back at Google for Education's key aspects, each can be linked to of curriculum subjects which the children spend more time on in schools. Embedding computational thinking within a current curriculum requires a practical approach and can already be recognised in the classroom, with children using tools to solve problems whilst making use of trial and error within an atmosphere of working together. This can be seen across a range of subjects in schools, including English, in which story writing can be connected to decomposition, where a storyline is broken down. Children also show pattern recognition within story writing by knowing sentence structure and that all stories have a beginning, middle and end, and use algorithms by breaking down the writing process by first planning each section. Within maths, decomposition can be seen when children break down a bigger problem into manageable chunks. Pattern recognition is apparent within many aspects of maths, for example knowing that if 3 times 4 is 12, then 12 divided by 4 is 3. Abstraction is also used within algebra as numbers are represented as letters. Children can also recognise that there are certain ways in which to solve problems going through steps relating to algorithms. These aspects can also be applied to more creative subjects, for example art, music, dance, science and technology, in which there are clear indications of the key elements when children are asked to think about what they're going to create, then walking through steps to get to their final product. Children will use debugging within all subjects to go back over anything that has previously been unsolved or that they are unhappy with to create an end result which is desirable. It is clear that computational thinking has a beneficial place within the primary curriculum and can be developed for a variety of subjects using meaningful activities without the use of a computer. It is definitely an approach I will be using within my future practice.